Welcome to Quiero Dinero podcast. Juan Pablo Delgado takes you with business owners interviews, professionals, and people who are in the hustle. Quiero Dinero es un espacio para cotorrear sobre negocios, emprendimiento, la vida misma y el dinero.
Hi everyone, I'm Juan Pablo Delgado. August 2020 is almost ending, and this is Quiero Dinero podcast special edition. And why is the special edition? Well, because I keep hearing people's concern about the Paycheck Protection Program, well known as PPP loan. So this podcast special edition will cover all about it. That's why my guest is Robert Raimondo. He's a former Arthur Andersen auditor who worked on initial public offering, the process by which a private company can go public by sale of its stocks to the general public. So Robert, at the age of 29, was the financial controller of the Los Angeles Market of Waste Management, where he saved the company $1 million in taxes on an Los Angeles Revitalization Zone credit project, and then left to work for a startup trash company in Hawaiian Islands. So he came back to mainland to work for a family-owned logistic company that ran warehouses for GE Appliances and Sears, and did joint venture real estate projects with the Cornerstone, real estate investment arm of Mass Mutual. Robert Raimondo recently has become a consultant for small to medium sizes and startup businesses. He's an author of an article of the application requirements for loan forgiveness on the Paycheck Protection Program, known as PPP, that was part of the government stimulus response to the COVID-19 pandemic economic hardship. I'm Juan Pablo Delgado, CEO of Rate the Bars, Latinx, and Financial Pro, and keep listening if you want to know more about the PPP loans. Robert Raymond, thank you for being in Quiero Dinero podcast special edition today with us.
I'm very happy to be here. Glad
Absolutely.
to be able to talk to your audience, and we'll get to learn a little bit more about PPP loan forgiveness.
That's right. That's why it's a special edition, because I keep hearing people's concern about the Paycheck Protection Program, known as a PPP loan, and you are the right person to get all the answers about it.
Yeah, actually, the PPP program. Actually, I've authored an article. Not only people applied for the loan, which was basically part of the Washington, the Congress stimulus package in order to help with the COVID economic hardship that was out there. And what's happening now is that people have to pay back these loans. So you have to kind of these businesses have to have the mindset that you did an application for a loan. Now you have to apply for forgiveness. If you don't apply for forgiveness, it converts to a loan on your books, and you have to pay it back. But if everything is done correctly, it basically turns into a grant from the government. That in the whole premise of the PPP, when the government closed down these small businesses. They wanted, instead of having people rush onto unemployment and overwhelm the system, they created this program which basically would say, employers, keep your people employed. The government will reimburse you for their payroll. So in essence, it was basically unemployment, because all the businesses were closed, and everyone wasn't working. But it was just easier because everyone's paychecks were still in the payroll systems for all these companies. Where it was just a much more efficient way of getting this money out to people versus people having to apply for unemployment. So that's kind of like the basic premise of what this was done. Originally, the calculations were done that you took your monthly payroll times 2.5 months, which basically kind of just gives you the idea that what the government was originally anticipating, that this was going to come and go away after 2.5 months. So that's there's reasons why there's these numbers out there. So basically, you took your monthly payroll times 2.5 months, and that was your loan that was given to you. And then over time, they've kind of changed the parameters of what the loan was for. Originally, it was supposed to be used 75%, 25% payroll versus other expenses. Other expenses would include your rent, your utilities, and such. Over time, they even made it even more forgiving, where they said, "Oh, you don't only have to use the funds 60% for payroll, 40% for other expenses." So they've kind of it's been like a moving bar, which
right.
has kind of created some confusion. And also too, they've kind of changed the payback period. Originally, it was 8 weeks from when you first received the funds in your account that you had to basically spend the money and then ask for forgiveness. Then they extended it to 24 weeks, as they I think they realized that things were not improving with the economy as quickly as they had first anticipated.
Right, exactly. So, and I have a lot of questions regarding that. So, but you know what? Before we jump on that and deep more of the PPP, tell us just in a few minutes about yourself and about what do you do.
Okay, so I work for a company called RFT Partners. We're CFO for hire, controller for hire, which really this falls into our breadbasket. A lot of companies, all companies, need to have a CFO or controller on their payroll to handle something such as this, to do these applications for loans and also the application for forgiveness. And unfortunately, not every company can afford to have those kind of positions on staff. So we can come in on an as-needed basis to kind of fill in those holes of the companies that needs that kind of service done. We also do business management and also back office accounting work as well. So basically, we a lot of companies that over the course of time have kind of decided let's outsource that work to a back so what they call a back office. So we have our staff come in and pay the bills for the companies, and then we do the financial statements,
right.
And then work with the owners. So if we get more involved in the details, then I'm more involved. I'm able to guide them and give them recommendations for cost cutting or just overall business advisory.
Right. Awesome. And so, who qualified for a loan, and what was the program's intentions?
So basically, all small businesses were, really filled into this category, and also Schedule C independent contractors as well. A lot of people didn't realize that Schedule C independent contractors could apply for these loans. Owner, non-employee owners, owners, companies that have just owners only with no employees, they could apply as well. So a lot of people kind of missed out on this stuff. It wasn't really, really explained very well when I think the program came out to the public, because I think a lot of big companies ran out and, grabbed these loans, and you hear of, universities getting these loans, and really it was really meant to help the small independent, small businesses. And I think a lot of them either missed out because, I would have calls, people asking me, "Oh, is this, I didn't even know I qualified for this." I'm like, yeah,
right, exactly.
By the time they realized it was almost too late.
And what is used properly by businesses?
Well, I think over time you've kind of heard from the grapevine, through because unfortunately, one of the provisions that is in the loan is if it's not forgiven, so if the documentation isn't provided correctly, it converts into a 2 to 5 year loan from the Small Business Administration, SBA, at 1%. And so a lot of companies, unfortunately, have didn't use it correctly, and they said they took did a calculation in their head and said, "You know what? I don't mind having a small, cheap loan out there. Right? 1% loan is great. That's cheap money." So basically, a lot of companies, it's kind of come out in the press where some of these companies just fired all the workers, took the money, and didn't use it what it was intention of, but just now have a cheap loan on their books. So that was cheap interest, cheap cash, for companies. Right. And, something like that. And, so I think hopefully the SBA, and Congress will kind of, come down on these companies, because really, obviously by doing that, it hurt the workers, the people who were, the intention of this was to, push the money out to the public, and get them spending, having them pay their rents, put food on the table. And some of these companies just did a very callous move and took a short-term cheap interest loan.
Right. Wow.
And you heard stories. You've even heard stories too. There's of a company, owner down in Florida who, took the money, fired his workers, and bought a Lamborghini.
Oh wow. Right?
So no, it was in the some of that stuff was in the news, and I've also heard too through the grapevine that people took the owners took the money, again, didn't use it for the proper purposes.
Exactly.
And bought real estate. They said, God. I'll take a 5-year 1% loan for real estate. And I think that's when you really realize when that was happening is why so many states got overwhelmed with the unemployment, because if the money was used properly, and all these people were not running off to the unemployment lines because their employer didn't fire them and left them on the payroll, which was the design of this program, you wouldn't have seen, places like Florida or in California just get overwhelmed. Because really, if you think of it, there was an easy check, right? If you're an employee that ran off, if you applied for unemployment insurance, they should have asked you, who's your employer? Well, if you tell them, oh, my employer is John Smith, Auto Body, and then a quick check, they could say, oh, John Smith Auto Body, get a PPP loan. Why is this person applying for unemployment insurance? That was a very easy check that the government missed, and I think could have avoided a lot of the fraud and abuse, unfortunately.
Right. Exactly. Wow. Amazing. And Robert, the next is, I think, is a very important question. When do small businesses, sole proprietorship, need to submit an application for forgiveness?
Yeah, so actually one of the provisions is that you have, the 24 weeks from the day you receive the money in your account. So if you receive the money, say on June 1st, the 24 weeks clock starts that day. If you received it on, May 22nd, that's when the day. So it's the day that the money actually lands in your account. You have 24 weeks to prove that you need to, at that point, have to file for forgiveness. You can file early, and I'm actually recommending that to people for the fact that, this program is so loosey-goosey. There's still provisions that still haven't been defined by the SBA. How are bonuses, considered? How are certain things? So, one of the things I'm telling a lot of clients is, if you spent the money, and actually I was just literally off the phone with a client literally like a half hour ago, and I said, let's get it in. If you spent the money, let's get it in. Let's get the application rolling. The banks are just really coming online now. I think, some of the big banks, even like Citibank, like literally it's opened their portals to be able to fund, to allow the application process for the application for forgiveness to actually occur. So even the banks are kind of scrambling a little bit too. So 24 weeks, but it's better to do the paperwork early. Everyone, just like tax season, everyone likes to do their taxes on April 14th. We don't want to wait too long on this one.
Exactly. Wow. Okay. And Robert, I know that you are a well-informed person, and so what's anticipated in the next stimulus package from Washington?
Yeah, I think obviously, what they're more inclined to do is, do what they did in the past. I think, they're looking obviously to reduce the amount of the additional unemployment that's, from the federal government that's over, on top of what the state unemployment is. But also too, they're talking about doing another rollout of the PPP program, because it was a successful program for people that, did it correctly.
Right.
It was a very easy way to push the money out to people, kept people employed, and that was, it created, even goodwill for some companies too. The fact that, all the employees for a restaurant, you don't fire everyone and have to go try to find people and put want ads out later. All your people are there, right? They're all sitting there. Unfortunately, they're sitting at home. They'd love to be working, right? They'd love to be making, working, and making tips and all that stuff. But unfortunately, there's no indoor dining. There's, some places don't have space for, outdoor dining. So some of these businesses are pretty much just closed down, right? There's certain, so basically all these people that's sitting there in the PPP program, when done correctly, is a fantastic program. And I see that another, $1 trillion or whatever the number that, Washington figures out that it will be injected into the economy by the PPP program.
Right. Awesome. And Robert, tell us again, how can you or your company assist companies in the application process?
So the application process itself, you have to take, there's multiple functions. On the payroll side, it depends, you have to pull the payroll records from the day of, I think it's the day of April 15th is the day supposedly, they've kind of used as the pre-COVID level day. So from that day forward, you need to have all your payroll records, put together, and also the corresponding bank statement that pay period came out of. Also, too, all your utility bills, any rent bills, any leases and stuff like that. So all those functions have to be pulled together. And then also, too, there are some safe harbor rules. Some of the people when you brought them back, they have to be brought back to their pre-COVID level. So if you have an employee making $50,000 and you drop them to $30,000, well, you have to bring them back to 50. If not, the safe harbor rules, and so those numbers would actually have to be then would kind of almost fall into a loan because you really didn't use the funds properly. So there's some calculations that have to be done.
Right.
And it's depending on the complexity of the work, we kind of do a free consultation with our clients just to kind of figure out, some things can be very simple. If you paid it all with payroll, it's simple. If you had hourly employees, then you have to kind of do some Excel spreadsheets. We have to kind of prove that, the hours that you were giving them 40 hours a week, and then you dropped them to 30, and then you had to bring them back to 40. So things can be more complicated. And even though some of those calculations, the full-time equivalency has to be actually done on an employee by employee basis. So if you have a lot of hourly employees, it can be very time consuming. So, that's why, we say, hey, let's get the conversation going.
Right.
Let's talk about what type of, expenses you had. And then from there, we can determine the next the next point of action.
Oh, wow. Perfect and awesome. Thank you. And Robert, what's the best way to contact you and get the PPP loan forgiveness application review process going? And let's not wait until the deadline of 24 weeks for now.
Yeah, I think reaching out to us, me through email, and then, at least that we can kind of begin the process. And then, from the email, then I can kind of, maybe with that, initial email and consultation, we can kind of get the process rolling on, overall idea of what the business and what type of, funds are used and how much, if you have hourly employees versus salaried employees and stuff like that. So, that's
right.
Probably the first thing to do is to reach out and get the ball rolling. Okay.
Sounds good. And Robert, what other services does RFT Partners offers to startups, to small and medium-sized businesses?
Yeah, so we actually do a lot of work with startups. My background, I've kind of worked in the startup space. I've done some worked with I was a controller for waste management. I was a controller for some large companies, some small companies. So I've worked, some of my clients are startups, medium-sized, small businesses. So, we do that back office accounting. We do initial consultations. We have a variety of business partners that we work with in order to augment some of the services that we perform. So we're kind of like a one-stop shop. So you can come to us, and then we can then kind of walk you through, like, especially a startup, you can kind of come to us, and then we can kind of, walk you through the process of what you need, and then and go from there.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you. And Robert Raimondo, thank you for answer a lot of questions about the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. And,
I'm very happy to.
Absolutely. And before we wrap this up, anything else that you would like to say to our community, to our audience?
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be on this broadcast. I think it's a fantastic podcast that you're doing, and getting the word out to people about and educating people. Because like I said, a lot of this program wasn't probably advertised correctly. Wasn't they should have taken advertisements on the TV to reach out to the community to let them know this stuff is out there. Hopefully, right. Everyone be educated. So for the next go around, everyone know what these programs are out there.
Absolutely, I love it. Thank you so much, and let's hope that people don't wait until the deadline. It's coming soon. So
like I said, the key is I think let's be proactive, right? Just in any situation, be proactive. Get the loan paid back. If you haven't spent the money yet, then obviously that's a different situation. But if you've spent the money already, get it paid back, because you just don't know. Washington can come back and say, well, we'll give you the PPP loan if your previous one was paid off. So you just don't know, and then it's like you're dealing with the government, so it is what it is.
It is what it is, exactly. Robert Raymond, I appreciate it, and thank you so much. And keep raising the bar and keep in touch as well.
Okay, my pleasure. Take care.
For all out there, keep raising the bar as well. I hope you enjoyed this interview, and thank you for listening, and please don't forget to share. Thank you for my support, RTV Financial Group in Beverly Hills, Callcast, and Power Podcasting.